Hey guys, it's Kodakai. Welcome back. Today's tutorial is going to be on Bootstrap 4. I'm going to show you how to create a complete website using Bootstrap. And if you've never used Bootstrap before, this is going to be a great tutorial for you to learn from. I'm going to do a step-by-step. So here's the website I'm going to create today. I've already created this, so I'm going to step through this website that I created. And if you look at a lot of websites today, this is what it looks like. You know, pretty much you have a navigation. I've seen this on a lot of websites lately with this kind of slide background, and it's transparent up here on the navigation. And then as you scroll down, you see it fades into a full solid navigation bar. And then of course, if you slide back up, it goes back into transparent. I'll show you how to do some navigation. That's the whole thing with Bootstrap. It covers all navigations. It covers slides. It covers down here the content body where we can do cards and buttons, images, cards. Everything is formatted neatly. We're going to add in a footer. Bootstrap also has some nice little pop-ups like that. They're called like little light boxes with little pop-ups. So you can put content in here however you want. It can go as wide as you want, small as you want. I'll show you how to do the scrolling right here, different type of menus. Then as you click on that, I'll show you how to do a smooth scrolling down to content. So this has more of a portfolio theme to it, but I'll also show you some shop settings, how to set up. You know, there's a lot of e-commerce sites out there right now people want to implement. So let's say you have a website that also you want to show your projects and some things that you're selling, maybe shirts or hats and hoodies and all that. So let's go to this page and I'll cover this slide right here, how you can implement some slides in here. Watch, if I leave it alone for a second, it will automatically scroll just like a regular slide. And there's a lot of options for Bootstrap slides here. And then I'll go a little bit more in depth with some of these cards to make it look a little bit more nicer, some different buttons here. And of course, I'm going to host this on my github.com website here. I'm going to host it on kodakai.github.io. You can open up that site, view the source code, or play with the demo, see how you like it, and modify things around as you want. So I'm going to start off by going to my Visual Studio Code, and I love this program. So you'll see I have a couple of things set up already. I have a CSS folder here. I have an images folder where I created a couple of images that I'm going to use for the website. A JS folder here, and a index.html file. So go ahead and create that. And to get started with this, we're going to first go to getbootstrap.com right here, because we need to get Bootstrap. And as you scroll down here, you're going to see right here, Bootstrap is hosted on CDN. And we're going to grab the style sheet here. Right now is Bootstrap 4.4.1. So I'm going to grab that style sheet, and I'm also going to grab these scripts down here because we're going to need this. And this Bootstrap script here, I'm not going to include Popper. I'm just going to include the Bootstrap JS and also jQuery that they include in here. And this is the latest jQuery right now, 3.4.1. So go ahead and grab those and copy it. Go back here and let's create our HTML first. Let's go. I'm going to enter that in and create HTML5. And this will be Bootstrap for website. And where I want to include this is in the header here, in this head tag. And I'm going to put it right below the title here. Paste that in. And like I said, I'm going to remove this popper here. We don't really need it. If you want to include it, it doesn't really matter, but I'm going to delete it. So we have jQuery and we have Bootstrap JS. And I like to label this as Bootstrap. Oops, 4. Or you can put the whole version of it so you can know the next time you go into it, you can update it if you want, you know exactly what version it is. And then we also need the CSS here. So we're going to grab that and then also paste in the Bootstrap CSS. And what I like to do is keep everything together under Bootstrap, so I know this whole section here is for Bootstrap, except this right here. This is jQuery, so I'm gonna put jQuery on its own. I'm gonna cut that out right there. Next thing I want to do is go to FontAwesome. In our tutorial here, I'm using some FontAwesome icons. These icons right here are by FontAwesome. And I have it also in right here. If you go scroll down here, these stars here, these are FontAwesome icons. So I'm going to be using that. So go ahead and go to FontAwesome right here, FontAwesome.com. And I really suggest that you enter in your email so you can create an account, and it creates you a kit. And then when you log in, you can get your own FontAwesome JS script. So I have my own here. I don't think it shows any CDNs or anything like that to include it. You might have to create an account here because I know I created an account and it gave me my own link. So just paste in your FontAwesome CSS down here. FontAwesome. I have mine here. So here's my FontAwesome. It's version 5.11.2. And then next up, we want to create our own CSS file. So I'm going to put a style.css here. And then we're going to link this. So let's link, we're going to do ./CSS/style. So now that we linked our CSS file, and we also want to link a script file. So let's do a script.js, and we're going to do script source equals .js.script.js. So there's our JavaScript file that we're gonna add some code into this, and we're gonna add some CSS. One thing I want to mention is that you really should learn some basic CSS. Learn CSS where you know classes, IDs, and do some basic, and then get better at it, because and I really suggest using CSS with Bootstrap here. It's a lot more powerful if you do that. You can do a lot more modifications. You don't want to just know Bootstrap alone. You want to also be good with CSS so you can modify things on your own and just customize it to the way that you want, so that you're not relying completely on Bootstrap. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to add some minor CSS to this. Okay, so the first thing I want to add is a navigation. So let's title this here navigation. And in HTML5, we have a thing called nav, right? So I'll just use that. You can also do a div if you want, but in here we're going to have a class equals navbar. Now navbar is a Bootstrap class, and then we also want a navbar expand MD. MD is for medium. All of these are Bootstrap classes that's predefined, and it creates your navbar for you. So there's also a large if you want to use that, and a small. I'm going to do a medium. We have navbar dark. There's also a navbar light. Here, I'll set it to light for now so that we can see. And then a fixed top. There's also a sticky top. It's called sticky top like that. But so, you know, fixed is exactly what it does. It keeps the navbar fixed up top. When you're scrolling, it's always fixed. Sticky will stay up there for a while until you scroll down like halfway, then it disappears. And if you leave it as a default without sticking or anything, the navbar goes away as you're scrolling. So let me show you right now a fixed top. Save that. And then within my navbar, I want to have a container. So div, this is a shortcut to create a class in VS Code. I'm going to have a container fluid. Container fluid makes the whole navbar or anything inside the container go all the way to the width of the page. Now I'm going to create some links, just my default links here. I'm going to have this is Coder Kai, and this is going to go to the left. This is like my branding that I'm going to have to the left. Every website has that, a branding to the left and all your navigation menus to the right. But I'm just going to put in the menus right now. There's a projects, right? There is a shop and a contacts page. Now, since my branding is going to the left and I want all the menus to the right, I'm going to group these together right here. And I'm going to create a separate div right here called navbar collapse. And you pretty much know what a collapse is. I'll show you right here. Everything is going to collapse when the window shrinks for mobile. So that's why I'm creating this collapse menu right here. It's telling it everything within this container here for collapse, that's going to collapse. But everything outside of it is not going to collapse. And you'll see in a minute. And we also need this collapse here. So all of this is Bootstrap. And I need to give this collapse an ID. So I'm going to call it here. So let's just call this navbar menu. And I'll show you this page in a minute here after I set it up. Now, since this is the collapse menu, we want the little burger icon for the collapse icon. So we're going to create that as a link so that you can click on it. You don't really have to call this anything like that. But we need a class in here called navbar toggler. So this class is going to create that little burger menu with the 3 slashes in it, you know, and I'll show you that in a minute. But we need to add this little data toggle in here. Toggle. And that's going to be of a class called collapse. And then we need a data target. So you're going to see this a couple of times. I'm going to use this data toggle and data target in a couple of things. And it always comes in this pair here. So it's just something you have to memorize. Data toggle, I'm telling it to be a collapsible menu. The target is actually this right here. This is where we're targeting. So it knows that when I click on this link, it's targeting this div here with this ID, and it's going to make it collapse. So to do that, we have to put this little pound sign here, and we call it navbar menu, exactly the name of the ID here. And now the last thing in here, we're going to use the I kind of tag here, the italic tag. And FontAwesome loves to use this tag because it's short, it's simple, and this is going to give it that little icon, the collapsible icon. And the class name is navbar toggler icon. Very simple. Let's also add a home link in here so we can go back home. This is going to be home. So I can put that. And so now I need to wrap this whole thing in a navbar nav to let it know that it's the nav. So it's called navbar nav, like that. So let's wrap this inside a div. So you see here outside of it is the collapse, and this is the navbar nav. And I want to align this to the right, so I have to say ML auto. So as you see now, this navbar is going to align to the right. It's going to be the collapsible menu, and this is my branding to the left. Save that, and here, let's take a quick look at it. So you see here, this is how it looks like right now. The branding to the left. This is to the right, but I haven't formatted this yet, so we're going to do that in a minute. Another thing I need to do is to let these links know that it's part of the navbar. And so we have to add a class to it called nav link. Actually nav item and also nav link. So that they know that these are the nav items. So I'm going to paste all of these in here. See, I didn't do this home one here, so let's give this a class. Nav item, nav link. See, it kind of formatted it for me. Now here, let me add in a little FontAwesome here. I'm going to go to FontAwesome. This is how you search for icons. Go to their search here. I'm just going to put in Ninja. And you see how it has this here. I can click into it, and it gives me this code right here. I can just click this to copy. I'll go back to my code here. And I want to put the little ninja icon right here, right next to my branding. So since this icon is the branding, I'm going to call it navbar brand. And then I want to put this in a span here called navbar text. Let me cover that in the span. I'm doing a span so that it doesn't break to a new line. If you do a div, it's going to break. And so this is how it's going to look like. You see there, the navbar text gave it a certain color and a certain size. And here's that icon that I just put in. Little ninja icon. You see how it aligns right here? Ninja icon, and then my brand text. And so yeah, FontAwesome is crazy. You can search for so many cool fonts and add them to the site. Okay, so now let's add some drop-down menus, because you saw in the example, I want to have some drop-downs on here. So what I'm going to do is, this is going to be the main drop-down link. So we need a class in here called drop-down toggle. And then we need a data toggle, right? And this is going to be a drop-down for the data toggle to let it know it's a drop-down. Then we need an ID, drop-down menu. Very simple. So right under there, I'm going to have a div called drop-down menu. So right under this is, we're going to create a div with our drop-down menu, right? So let's give that a class of drop-down menu. And then in our menu here, we're going to create some links. it's going to be drop down item. Just like navbar item, there's drop down item. And then the first one I'm going to have is just Python. This can be our projects here that we're going to have. Actually, let's give this a h5 class in here for a class equals drop down header. So this is going to give it a little header class, and this is where it's going to be called Python. And then we have items under that, and we can call this like Python project 1, stuff like that. So let's give this another one. I'm just going to copy and paste a couple of them. Project 2, project 3. And I'm not going to have these go anywhere right now. There's just examples. If we want to have another header class here, we can do another h5 with drop down header. And this could be like our node projects. So same thing, I'll copy these here. Just call it node. Like that. Here's another node, project number 2. So let's see how this looks like right now. See how when I refreshed it, it created this little drop down little icon, and you click on it. Oh, it's not formatted correctly. All right, so let's format this here. So I have to enclose this in a class called dropdown. That's what I was missing, dropdown. So everything contained within that dropdown. There you go. Even the link here for that project dropdown toggle. So it's all contained within a dropdown. So let's go check it out. And there you go. It's all contained within that dropdown. And of course, you know, I can do some more formatting. I'm going to put some FontAwesome icons here. I can make these links a little bit smaller and I'll show you how to do that here. There's Bootstrap has a lot of different classes you can look up. And there's a class in here called small. You can do that. I'll make all of these small, but I really suggest using CSS for this. And I'm just going to do this really quick like this. But for CSS, you can add in, let's say for your drop down menu here, you want all of the links small. So yeah, I suggest creating your own class. You can call it like drop down links and maybe like SM for small so that it creates all of these links and makes them small. But I'll show you the Bootstrap version here. You can say small to all of these here. And anything that it has that small class, it will make it smaller. Just like that. See how it went smaller? And then there's some space here. Let's say I can put a drop down divider to put a little line in it. So I'm gonna do a div drop down divider. Like that. So that's gonna separate it. Take a look at that. See, it has a little separation here. All right, so I went ahead and I looked up some FontAwesome icons for Python here. They have some cool ones. This one's called Fab FA-Python, and there's one called FA Node.js. And this is how it looks like when you add in those FontAwesome icons. You see that? It puts the little icons right next to it. So go ahead and search for your own FontAwesome icons. As long as you add the tag right next to whatever the text or whatever you want, it's gonna pop up there. And it makes it look very slick, very nice. Now for the shop, you know, you can do the same thing. If you want to drop down for the shop, just go ahead and copy the same thing. Copy drop down here. Add that over. And same thing, you know, we want a drop down toggle. And data toggle equals drop down to let it know that it's going to be a drop down. And then this ID, gonna call this shop dropdown, because when we put in here, it has to be shop dropdown. I really should call this like project dropdown, like that. Project menu, project dropdown. Menu or dropdown is fine, whatever you want to call it. So now I have a project dropdown for that, and I have a shop dropdown for that. I can give it a h5 dropdown header, right? Class equals drop down header. And this could be like, let's say if I'm selling t-shirts in here. So I'm going to copy a couple of these up here and just paste them down there to make it simple. And this can be t-shirts. Let's call this like, let's say we have 3 different shirts. You know, we have like some retro shirts. Then we have some like urban shirts. We have like classic shirts. And of course here the class is also a drop-down item. Let's give it a divider. So now I'm just gonna add in just a couple other things just to make it look nice. I'm gonna add in some hoodies and then some headbands. So I'll be right back. All right, so you'll see right here, I add in a couple other sections for the shop drop down. I have t-shirts, I have hoodies. I forgot right here, these have to have a drop down menu because that is the class for the drop down. So every one of these have to have a drop down menu. That. So it's drop down, the drop down toggle, and then we have the drop down menus. So let's check out the menus here. We have the projects, we have the shop, and see here are the ones that I added in. And then finally, just for the contacts here, I'm gonna have a little icon, a little envelope icon for the contacts here. And I think that does it for the navigation. There we go. Contacts, shop, projects, home, our little branding there. All right, so the next thing I want to add in is a slider now. Let's call this slider. Now every website today has a slider. It's like a carousel slider. So what it's called is a carousel. So we're going to give it a div.carousel like that. And let's also give it an ID. And I'm going to call this the main slide. And within the carousel it has a div carousel inner like that. So I'm really just putting an image within this carousel right now. It's not going to do any transitions. I'll do that for the shop one, but this one's going to be very simple. And let's go to our images here. And I have a slide mountains here that looks pretty nice. So let's see how that looks here. There you go. And so for this image, I also need a class. And I want to give it a width of 100. This is Bootstrap here. If I give it a W100, it's going to be that. And then I'm also going to do this D block. And it comes out to be like that. So it shrinks it to the right size. This image size is, I believe, 3000 by 1200 height. So 3000 width, 1200 height. And here, I'm going to collapse this a little bit to show you guys. It shrinks with it. And here's the thing with the navbar that we were creating with, that we were calling it collapse. If you go to a certain size, it does a media query on it. See that? So Bootstrap handles all of those media queries that formats it to iPhone, iPad sizes. And that's why when I said collapse MD up here, where I had collapse right here, navbar expand MD, and I'm telling it to collapse right here, the whole menu to collapse. It's telling it to, when it gets to this medium size here, it's gonna start having the burger collapse icon. And if I had it set to expand small, I can get smaller than the burger icon will show up. So it's all preference that you want to set it to. See, once it goes to that width here, the menu comes right back out. So instead of messing with media queries and doing all this stuff, Bootstrap handles it for you by just adding in those simple line of code that handles everything for you for the nav bar and the slider menu here. See, the slider menu just shrinks with it. And here's the nav bar light, right? If I go back to dark, go like that, refresh it, and that's how it gives it that a lighter link up here for darker backgrounds. Now that we have the slider, the next thing we're going to create is the container. So we're going to have a div container fluid, and this is our content in here. we're gonna put all of our content inside here. And last, we have a footer, right? So I'm gonna use the footer tag here, like that, with a class of container fluid as well. So I want everything to be fluid with the site, the page. Footer Kai, copyright 2019. I can do a text center Bootstrap class here called text center. That's gonna center everything. If I want some padding, I can do a P5. It goes up from levels of like P0 to P5, I believe. And you'll see the padding in a minute here. And I'll give it an H1 tag here to just say like content. And you'll see how this looks like here if I refresh. See, content goes there. I gave it a footer. I gave it a little bit of padding, but you can't see it here. I'll do padding on this content so you can see the padding on it. If I go up here for content, I give it a P5. And see that it gave it padding. Now you notice that our nav bar, there's no background color on it. So there's also another Bootstrap class here called BG Dark, I believe. Give it a dark background. So see how it comes in dark like that. I can also do a BG Light. Refresh that. See how it's lighter, but depending on what theme you're using, you want the background to be light, you have to make that light. If you want it to be dark, then you have to create it, have the background as dark. So here, let's edit some CSS because we're gonna mess with the nav bar and we're gonna give it some transparency. So go into our style.css. So we're gonna take that nav bar class here, and we're gonna change the background color. So let's say background color is transparent, like that. I'm gonna add some box shadow to it. And what I had was 0, 1, 20 pixels with this type of light gray color to it for the box shadow. That shadow, there we go. And then a transition. So let's say transition background color, 1 second ease to 0 seconds. So it's gonna transition that background color and transition it from it's gonna ease into it within a second. Now copy this here because I'm gonna create another class here called navbar.solid, and this is gonna help with our transition here. And gonna paste that in. It's the same type of transition. It's gonna do a background with a 1 second ease. I'll show you in a minute how we're gonna use this solid class here. It's pretty much taking a transparent background and it's gonna turn it solid again. So now we have to do some JavaScript for the transition to happen, and I'll leave the code for this in my GitHub. So we're gonna add some jQuery in here, and what I'm gonna do is add the function here. This is like document ready. When you call that, it's gonna say when it's ready, run this jQuery. And then we're gonna have a window.scroll function, and always remember to end your functions here. Sometimes I forget to end this off and there's a problem. So this is basic JavaScript for window.scroll. You can find a lot of this on Google if you Google it up. I'm gonna do an if statement here, and let me format this so you can see it clearly. I'm gonna say where the cursor is at, where we're scrolling. If this dot scroll top, and that's a function saying if it's greater than 50 pixels here, then I want to run this here. And I'm gonna call the navbar class, and I'm gonna add a class to it. So when it's greater than that, I'm gonna add the solid class to it. It's called solid, and I'm gonna give the BG dark. So those are the two classes I want to give it. Otherwise, if it's below that scrolling and if we scroll all the way back up to the top, I want to remove those classes so that it can be transparent again. So let's just copy this, add it there, and this is going to be called remove now. And we're removing the same class here. So we added the solid as it scrolls, and we're removing it as we scroll up. And here's the solid and the BG solid. Here's the class that we created for that. And so in our index here, I only have navbar dark here. I don't want it to have it BG dark, because we're going to add and remove that within the JavaScript as we go. So let's save that, and let's go up here, refresh this page, and I'm going to scroll here. See, as I'm scrolling, it added the class as it went greater than 50 pixels right here. And you'll see right here on the scroll. And as I scroll back up, when it hits that right there, it goes back to transparent because it's removing the solid class, it's removing that background dark class. So that's how it works with JavaScript, with scrolling. And we created that effect. We also gave it that effect with this little box shadow here. So all that was CSS, transparent, box shadow, and the transition. And then you see right here, I'll leave all of this in my GitHub description, so you can just copy and paste this scroll link. Okay, so the next thing I want to show is how to do this scrolling right here. When I click on a drop down, I click on that. See how it just scrolls right to the project? So I want to show you how to do that right now. Let's go back into the index.html file and go to the navigation. And I'm gonna add it to our projects here for all of the project links pretty much. So we're gonna create a hashtag anchor link. I'm gonna call it project anchor. So copy this for each of the links, or just a few of them, so I can just show you guys how it works. So you see the link here is now this anchor link with the hashtag. And so I have to create an ID for where it's going to scroll to. And I want it to scroll to our project header here. So I'm going to give that ID of the same name, project anchor, just like that. Now go into our script file, script.js, and I'm going to do an on click. So when we click on that link, it's going to activate our code, or jQuery code. And what I'm going to use is this dropdown item, because all of the links have this class to it, dropdown item. So anytime they click on a dropdown item link, it will activate. So let's do an on click on that. And how we do that is we're going to call it like this, dropdown item dot on click, and it's a function. And that like that. And then I'm going to check the hashtag. So I'm going to say if. Do if statement here. Actually, I'm going to pass through an event here, and let's do a event.prevent default, because I'm going to prevent it from clicking through, and that's how you prevent things from clicking. All right, so now in here, I'm going to say if this.hash is not equal to empty, so it has to have a hashtag, then we're going to proceed with this. And let's say let anchor equals this dot hash. We want it to equal to that hash tag, which is called project anchor right now, right? That's the hashtag name right now. So it's going to equal to that. And then we're going to do an animate on this. So to animate, I have to call the HTML and body like that. And then we're going to call .animate, just like that. Here, and to animate it, we're going to give it 8 seconds to animate, and we're going to do another function. We've got to end it like that. So while it's animated, we want it to scroll top. Now we need to call our anchor here dot offset dot top, and then down here we're going to say window dot location dot hash equals to our anchor. So that's how it works. When we click on it, it's going to see that there's a hashtag. Then we're setting this to the name of the hashtag so we can scroll to it. And then this part is just really animating the page from the top, and it's going to scroll to our anchor tag. So let me look over this right now. I think there we go. We just needed that in there like that, and that should work. All right, guys. So before we move ahead, I want you to go to the index page here, and I want you to update this jQuery right here, because it was giving me some issues with some of this stuff. So let's make some updates to this. This thing was saying, I think it was saying slim.min like that. Just remove the slim part, because we want to use some functionality in here that uses the animate function and all that stuff. So using min is good. So you can change it to this. We can also remove this too if you don't want to do that. This uses the full jQuery, or we can also do latest. That works as well. But min works fine right now. It's like the minified version. And then also I want you to remove this integrity right here and the cross origin. So I went through and I deleted that. It also had it in the Bootstrap here. So delete all of that, and even the FontAwesome too, if it has it. So we're just left with the source that goes directly to the code here. I don't need any of that integrity and all that stuff. It was kind of messing with the code here, and it made some things not work. So yeah, after you remove that, and then we have our drop down code here. Let's step through it again. We have our anchor ID in here for the link. Anytime it has a drop down item or a nav link, that's what it says in our script here, drop down item or nav link, it's gonna do the scrolling for it. It's gonna look for this link, and it's gonna scroll to the ID of that hashtag there. It's gonna go scroll down to each one. And right now we only have project anchor and contact anchor. So save that, and if you refresh our page here, refresh, now click down the drop down, and I'm gonna click on this project here. See, I have an anchor that goes to the project, so it scrolls to there. Or I can click on contact and it scrolls to the contact. So that's how it works. All right, so we got that out of the way, and let's move on to our content body here. We're gonna work with cards now. There's a lot of things you can look up on Bootstrap. There's grids and there's cards. But in this example, I'm going to use cards to make our page look very nice. And the cards are pretty much this right here. The cards create these little card boxes here. It creates that. And cards, it's also for this page here that has this stuff here. So we're going to go through cards right now. And finally, I don't think you need this here. I think I was using it for styling my drop downs. So it's going to make it a lot simpler. You can remove this ID here where I have, for the drop down here, I have an ID, a project drop down. I wasn't really using that ID for anything, and I think I was using this class to style my links, but you can remove that. It doesn't need it. For drop downs, you just have to wrap it in a drop down. You wrap it in a drop down menu, and then you have the drop down items for the link, and then it just worked within this main link up here for the drop down. That will activate it as long as you have the data toggle as drop down, and it will toggle this right here. So you can remove the ID. I'm going to remove this too. It's just unnecessary code. ID shop drop down. You can remove that. And this was just a class in there, so you don't need that. And we'll go here, refresh, and so you can still activate your drop down. So all right, so now we're going to move on to cards, right? And cards are super simple when you see them here. Watch, I'm going to do a project. I'm going to start for the projects here. And let me label this as cards right here so we know where to start. And really, you just give it a div of a class called card. And then within that card, we have a card body. And then within the card body, we have a card title and card text. Or let's give it like a H5 card title. Let's make this an H6. Let's make it a little bit smaller. And then we can give a P tag in here called card text. So let's name this. So that's Python project number 1. So we'll call it here Python project number 1. And then this is my first Python project, right? For the text. And then we want to have an image up here. So if I place an image on top, it's going to have all of this text on the bottom of the image. So let's do an image here. Let's find a nice image here. So project MacBook here. So I'll save this real quick and let's take a look at the card here. Actually, I think I need a class in here. And this class for the image needs to be card image top, because I want to place it on the top. Let's go to our page here and refresh. Okay, that's way too big. Now I'm going to show you how to wrap that here. So let me create a couple more cards here. Actually, I'm going to create 3 more of these so I can show you how to wrap them nicely together. Python project number 3, my 3rd, right? So now I'm going to wrap this in a card deck. It's called card deck. And what this does is it wraps it neatly on a row and it separates them very nicely together. So watch, I'll refresh this and see. As you put them in decks here, it puts some spacing in between them. It aligns it very nicely together. As many as you have in each deck there. If I add another one, it'll be a little bit smaller within that card deck. And so, yeah, you can add as many as you want, and they conform as you shrink it down like that. So that's how it looks like now. That's mobile size. So there's our card deck. Now I'm gonna add a button to the bottom of this. I can add it within the body too if I want. So if I do a link here with a class, and this is very popular in Bootstrap using buttons, so it's called BTN. BTN small because I want it a little bit smaller, and then BTN dark. So I'll show you some differences. If I do a button there for that, more info, something like that, right? So let's copy this. I'm gonna paste it down here, paste down here. This button, and so let's do a button light on this so you can see, and I'll remove the button small so you can see how big they look. And then if I leave this out, I can do like button primary. So let's see how that looks here. So there, you see all these different type of buttons that you can give them certain styles to. And so they all look different like that. And there's many more you can mess around with. There's secondary, there's warnings, there's danger colors. See how this one's a little bit larger because I left out the button small on it. So that's the default size. So if I say BTN SM here, it'll be a little bit smaller. Just like that. So that's how you do buttons. And then if I want to align that button in the center, I'll give it a P tag here. And that. And then I just have to give it a class of text center. And so you had to align that to the center. So I can do that for all of them here. And let me change some of these images up so it looks a little bit nicer. So there we go. I cleaned this up a little bit. I added better titles than project 1 or Python project 2 and all that. Added some text. And let me refresh this here, and there you go. That's how it looks like right now. So yeah, you can do a little bit more of CSS styling around this to make it look a little bit nicer. I can make this font a little bit smaller by going here, and I can say like, for this, I can say small. So you remember the small little class. So we can call that, and there you go. See how the text is a little bit smaller. But like I said, it's better to do CSS around it. I'd probably do a CSS card and then tell all of the P text to be small, or card text to be small. So here, let me show you that. We should do some CSS in here. So let me remove that small, right? So I can say card text. Anytime there's a card text, let's say it in here, you know, card text. And let's make that font size like 13 pixels. Or whatever you guys like to use. Do you like to use like M, like 09M? We can do that. So let's see how that looks here. And you see how it just modified for me. Let's make it a little bit smaller. This is maybe 8. So there you go. Use CSS along with Bootstrap, and it makes it a lot simpler. I didn't have to just put small in all these. I just call it within CSS, and it fixed it up for me. So if you don't want to use cards, there's also columns like this grid style. So we'll do a footer here with a grid style, okay? Let's add some space here. So I want this background to be dark here. And then I'm gonna add a row in here. So let's say row. So all of this is going to be contained within a row, and I'm going to have 3 columns, okay? And it's very simple. You just say column like that. Actually, you need column, and I think it's like small 3. So 3 is kind of like 300 pixels, and I'm telling it to be a small column. And let's give it an H6 in here with a text secondary. And let's call this home here. So watch, I'm gonna create links within our footer. You see this in every website. It has footer links. It has like the whole sitemap links in the footer. So that's why I'm gonna create a sitemap link. Give it HR, a P tag here. And under our home, we have project, shops, and contact, right? So a link here, we have home. And then let's break that down, and we have another a link for projects. And then we have another for contacts, right? Contact us. Now I'm gonna copy this column box here, paste it down here. And let's say I want to list out all of the project links. So this can be for projects. Is it projects or project? And then this is like, what are my projects here? Python data scraping, Python facial recognition. Facial recognition upcoming Python project. And then let's lay out the shop links. Right here we have shops, shop. And in our shop, we're selling what? T-shirts, hoodies. And then finally, let's have one last column for our contact. So let's say contact info, or just contact. And then I'm gonna have contact info for, let's say, my email, Facebook, you know, Instagram. There, I went ahead and I added some little font icons for this. I added my email, added some FontAwesome, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and all that, so it can look nice. Now let's take a look at this here. And there we go. You see how it has these columns here? It has the row, and then I added 4 different columns with the small 300 pixels each in each column. Or yeah, each column. But you notice how the links are a little bit bigger than they should be, and I want to align these a little bit better, so we can fix that with CSS. So since we have this footer tag right here, I can go into CSS. I can call it, let's say, footer, and within the footer for the p tags, we want it to be. Let's set all of the p tag text to be a certain font size. Let's make it the same as that 0.08 em, right? And let's do the same thing for links, the footer a links. Let's make them the same font size too. So let's see how that looks here. See how I shrunk it down? All this is just CSS. Let's make the footer links, the footer a links here, let's make the color a gray color. So we'll say color CCC for gray, like that. That's fine. It stands out a little bit more for the links. And then for this footer, let's remove this text center. I only had that for the for this here, so I'm gonna center this and not the other stuff. So let's say class equals text center for the copyrighted stuff, but everything else we don't want it to be centered. That. So let's see how it looks like now. There we go. It looks a lot cleaner now, right? So I think that's good enough for the footer here. And you know what? Let's remove this contact info. If they click on that, maybe I'll just have them scroll all the way down to our footer here for contact info. So right here, I'm going to take the anchor tag. I can remove that. So now our content body is only about projects, but in our footer here, I'm going to give the ID, anchor ID right here to contact anchor. So now when they click on that anchor, it's going to go all the way down to the footer to show that. Let's refresh that. Contact, and it just goes down here. So now I think I'll move along to shop so I can just show you the last section to do the sliding carousel, and then I'll show you some the little cards for the shop. All right, so I'm going to create a new file in here called shop.html and go back to our index here, and for our shop page here, let's link them all to this shop page. So we're going to say shop.html anytime they click on the link. And of course, you know, a real shop page, you're going to have a separate page for each thing, for t-shirts, for hoodies and all that. I'm just going to link it here so I can just show you the shop page. And so let's copy this whole page here, and I'm just doing this so that I can show you the shop page, but if you wait till the end, I'm going to show you how to do some header and footer includes using JavaScript, and it's going to be a lot cleaner. And then I'm going to show it running on my GitHub page. Because if you're setting up a GitHub page, you're going to notice that you can only run HTML files in there. So I'm going to show you how to do this include method. That's going to be very simple. But for now, we have the shop page that we just copy and paste. So let's say this is our shop page here, shop. So everything is the same, except we're going to go to the body content here. And now this is going to be the shop content. We'll have some cards in here for the shop. And so here, you notice the shop, I have a different image here. So let's change out the slide. So this one I was using slide shop. And there we go. We have the slide for the shop here. And now I'm going to show you how to do the carousel around it for that, for the shop page. So pretty much inside of, we're in our shop page here, shop HTML, and inside of carousel inner, we're going to have some carousel items. So let's do a div.carousel item. So yeah, you see how Bootstrap is? Everything is named pretty good. You know, if they have a carousel, it's going to be carousel items. If there's cards, there's card items. They're very similar. So this is the first item in the carousel, and let me copy this, paste it again, and change this second carousel item to something else. So let's call this, what did I have? Okay, so that one. And then now I can choose which one I want to be active to be the first slide. So if I say active on this, this one will be the first slide. Or I could say active on this and remove that, right? So depending on what you want to be the first slide. So I'll make this first one active. And this carousel stuff you can find from the Bootstrap website. It gives you the full code of carousel. You just pretty much copy and paste that block and just add in your images. It makes it a lot easier. You don't really have to memorize the whole carousel slide, but there's a lot of options you can set in here. And one of the options I'm going to set here is called the carousel control. And there's a previous button, and then there's a next button. That's when you press, you know, back or forward, and it makes the slide go. And there's a name for it right here, previous and next. And the only thing you have to change for this is you have to link it to your main slide here. So you'll see here, it's a link that has a carousel control previous with a href of main slide. Let's go into this ID here. And the role is a button. And so, yeah, whatever you name this, it has to match with the ID up here, so that it knows which one to pick. So if I go here and I refresh this, see now there's the back button and the next button, previous and next. So I click on that, see how it goes forward, but it's not really doing any animation right now unless I tell it that we want in this class here to be a slide. And I think there's a couple other transitions too, but I want this to be a slide in here. If I refresh this, now it slides just like that, see? And then if you leave it for a while, it's gonna slide on its own, adds its own transition. There's a timer on it. See, it just slides back and forth like that. So that's how you add the slide. And let's do the cards next for this. So let's go down to our content where the cards are, and I'm gonna remove this ID for the shop. It just needs a H1 of shop. Here's our cards here. So really, I'm just gonna change up these images. Let me see, I think I have some shop images here. Retro shirts, I have some hoodies and headbands. And I just call this like retro shirts, urban hoodies, headbands. Then let me change up my text here for the shirts. I just created some simple text for each card box here. So let me update this real quick. All right, so I added some text in here and it looks like this right now. I added some images, updated the titles, updated the text, and I want to update this to be, like a buy now or a add to cart type button. So let's change this to be add to cart. And then I'm gonna break this with let's do an HR like that to separate this portion here. Do an HR for all of these. And then now I'm gonna add a separate div here with text center. And I'm gonna add the stars in here, kind of like to make it look like people rated the item and along with the price. So to add the stars is pretty much just FontAwesome. And here it is. It's just this right here, p tag with the text, right? You gotta have the class of FontAwesome and FontAwesome star, I think it is. And then you need this tag to aria hidden equals true. So I'm gonna copy and paste this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars, right? And you're gonna notice that these stars don't have any color in them. Let me show you right now. See, they're just black stars, right? But we can color that. I'll show you right now. Let's give this a class of like gold star. Now let's go to the CSS and create that class gold star. And we have to give it a color, gold. Save that. Let's go out here. And there you go. See how it turned it gold? But we don't want to make everything gold, right? This is just to play around. You guys don't really have to do this. I'll give it a class of, how about black star here? Or actually, I think I can add it to here, black star. And then we need a CSS for black star. And this color is just black. Or let's make it gray. Gray looks better. Refresh that. You see how it made one of them gray, the rest of them gold. So that's the idea with the stars. It's just FontAwesome. There's a lot better CSS stylings for these stars out there. If you Google it up, I found a lot of cool ones where they do like half stars and all this. So just play around with the CSS, but I thought this was a quick way to create little star ratings, as they're called. And let's add a little price tag down here too. We want let's do H4. And let's give it a price of like, how much for this t-shirt? Let's say $24.99. See how that looks here. So see how that looks now? It looks more like a shop, You're here, you can see the stuff. You might want to have a button here that you can go in and go deeper into the shirts, see more like selections, like what I said right here. Retro high quality t-shirts from our popular clothing line, select from many different colors and sizes. So create another page for that, go in, select sizes and colors. But this is a quick way if you have, let's say if you want to list all of your shirts here or all of your hoodies instead of just one, and they can just add it to cart. So let's do the same thing for the hoodie and the headbands, and that should be good for that. I really love clean code when I code. You guys should get used to that too. I always align things properly. Let's see, this hoodie should be like, what did they go for, like 49? For some of these, I'm gonna make it like full 5 stars, or products or 5-star products here. So let's do that. There we go, looks a lot nicer now. Except this one, this is a 4-star product, but all of these other ones are 5-star products. Let's change the price for this headband. $19.99, there we go. Okay, so our shop is almost done here. I'm gonna show you how to do that little pop-up here for the, when you click on this info, and the pop-up can be very good for anything you create here. Let's say if I do a pop-up for my contacts, I can have that. Or pop-up display all my contact information instead of scrolling. I can do a pop-up for like more info on these items here. So let me show you the pop-up. So go back to the index HTML. It doesn't matter, index or shop, but I'm going to do it inside index HTML here. And we want to, when we click on the about, the branding Kodakai here, I want that to pop up. And to do that, we have to use a data toggle and a data target. So in here, when they click on this data toggle, and it's called a model like that, or modal. And then we need a data target. And I like to call this like about model. So it's going to target this. So you know what we need to do now with this, we need an ID, a div ID of this so that I can pop that up. So let's go right down here, right above the slider, but below the navigation. I'm going to have a div called, model. And I want that to fade in as it's clicked on. And then we have an ID called about model, right? So now it knows the box to activate when it's clicked on. It knows that this is the model, it's going to fade in. And when we clicked on it, it's going to that ID right here because we gave it a data target. And then I think I have to give this a role too of a dialog like that. And some other stuff, tab index. I don't know if this is necessary, but this makes it so that it stays on top, I think. And then there's also this aria hidden equals true. Watch, I'll try it without this. I don't think it's necessary. Let's try it without that first. And then this needs a div class of model dialog. And the role is a document. And then we have the div model content. I think, is it content? And then there's a model header. That, a model body. And within the header, I think there's a model title. So all of this is on Bootstrap, and they give you this whole model thing where you can just copy and paste it. Makes it a lot simpler. So the title here, I'll just say it's about me. I'm going to add my image. So let's see, dot images. And I'm just going to copy and paste my contact information. And this is the same thing I had in the footer where it has the FontAwesome stuff with the envelope and all that, just so it looks nice. And I think I'm going to align this text center like that. So I like to tag this and say this is the about model. And then I like to say that it's hidden, so I know. There we go. All right, let's check this out. Our home page here. If I click on this, oh, it's way too big. All right, let's make that smaller. Let's give it a width here. 150. There we go. So that's how you do a little pop-up for that, you know. They're called models. And yeah, if you look up on Bootstrap for the models, it just gives you the code, paste it in, and there's different widths, different sizes. You can do a lot in them. It's like a little light box, pops it in and out as you click on it, click on the outside, just like that. Very simple. Okay guys, so we're coming up to the last part here. It's just a little fun thing to do with GitHub. And I'm glad you stayed this far if you really want to learn this. And I'm going to show you here how to clean up the code. And we're going to upload this to my GitHub, and I'll show you the fully working page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a header and footer file right here. Header.html. And let's create another one called footer.html. I am going to my index page here. And everything that I have within navigation here, take the whole nav and up to even this about model here. I'm going to cut this out. So I cut that out, and I'm going to go to my header and paste this in. Now let me just format tab this over a little bit. There we go. I'm going to save that as the header. And now I'm going to go to my footer. I'm going to cut all this footer stuff out. This is going to be pretty cool when you see it in action. Paste that into our footer page here. And save that. Yeah, go ahead and close footer and header now. And now what I want you to do is to create a div up here that says div header include. So leave that there just like that. And then I'm going to do another div here called footer include. Leave that there. And then do the same for the shop. Copy this, go back to the shop, and now you can remove this navigation. And yeah, up to this navigation area, and put in the div for the header include. And then we also need the footer. So let's delete this footer because this is now footer include. Save that. And now go to the script, and we're going to load it using JavaScript because GitHub will run JavaScript for us. And to do that, I'm going to call it using, here's the header include dot load, right? And we're going to load where the page is coming from. And when we're calling things from GitHub pages, we have to call the full URL. So I'm going to say https:// my URL is coderkai.github.io/header.html. See how I had to call the full thing. I can't just say header.html because GitHub pages won't pick up directly where the that relative path is. You have to call it by the full path. And let's do the same thing. Let's copy and paste and put that for the footer. Now this is footer include, and this is going to include the footer. So what does this do? When the page loads, jQuery is going to run. It's going to load it, the header and the footer, and it's going to paste that into or IDs here. Actually, let's call this this is an ID, not a class. It could be a class too if you want. You're just going to have to change the script here to be a period instead of a hashtag. But since these are they're not being used multiple times in the page, I like to use them as an ID because we're only going to include the header and the footer once. So those should be IDs. Same thing for the shop. These are IDs. Just like that. And now you see how much cleaner the pages are. It's going to include the header for us. You notice that I didn't include the slide because the slides are different for each page. If the slides are the same for all of the pages, I would have included that in the header. But since they're different, this is what the content of the index page is going to be. There's the slide, there's the content with the cards, and that's it. And it just does the rest of the include. Look at the shop. It just has the slide for the shop, then it has the content with the cards. And then it includes all of the rest. Let's clean that up there. So that's about it. I'm going to upload this to GitHub and the page should work. If you guys never worked with GitHub or Git, I have a previous tutorial that I talked about how to use GitHub with VS Code here, how to link them together, how to set it up, how to get them to communicate using SSH keys. And you guys can watch that tutorial, but I'm just going to upload this real quick to my GitHub. So I'll be right back. Alright guys, so I uploaded my page to my GitHub page here. See, if you go to coderkai.github.io, and it will run this page, and you see that it just loaded everything. It did the JavaScript include with loading the header and the footer. But I need to mention this for GitHub.io here. When you're linking to the projects here, you have to call the full URL here. So copy that and watch, go to your header. And anytime you're calling, let's say the shop here, I want to call my shop page, I have to call the full URL. I can't just call shop.html. So I'm going to paste all of this in. Otherwise it won't work. Because GitHub pages, that's how it works. You have to call the full URL. And that's why I had in the scripts, do the same thing in this scripts here. I called full URL here. I can't just call header.html. It's not going to work. So as long as you're following those rules, it should work in your GitHub.io. And give it some time after you upload it to GitHub through VS Code here. It takes a while to load. I think, give it 5 or 10 minutes for it to refresh on your GitHub.io. And you know, for the exception of the images, for images here, you can just call it like this. This tells it within the current directory, go to images folder. So that works, but I noticed for the links, you have to call the full URL here. So let's do that, refresh, and let me go to my shops here. And there you go. It went to the page, just like that. Everything here works. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial on how to work with Bootstrap 4. You'll see that it's very powerful, and I really suggest that you do learn CSS along with this. You know, pick up on your HTML5, CSS3, learn how to do some CSS around it, and mix it in with Bootstrap, and it's gonna be great working with it, because you notice it's just saved a lot of time on creating a sweet little front end that looks a lot like many websites today. Just browse around to a lot of websites now. You're gonna notice they all have a navigation with the branding on the left, the navigation on the right, drop down menus, a slider, these card type body format content, and buttons. You know, you can format these buttons in a lot of different ways. Pop-ups, light boxes, and these footer links here just like this. And so yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Give it a thumbs up, and I'm trying to reach my subscriber goal of 1,000. Help me reach that by subscribing, and I will see you guys next time in the next tutorial. I will probably do a node tutorial in the next one, or if you guys are more interested in something else, you know, leave a comment and let me know what you like. But I think I'll just continue. I'll do some node, do a little crash course on that. I'll show you how to do some node with React. I'll do some Express, some cool stuff like that. I'll get into MongoDB and other databases. All right, guys, this has been long enough. I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Code Kai out.